Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert's Sports Show. I'm Robert. Alright, week 5 of the NCAA college football season. At week 4, I was 25-6, win-loss, brings the year-to-date of 71-17. Against the spread, last week I was 12-17, brings me a year-to-date total of 45-50. And over-under, last week I was 15-14, which brings the season total to 50-45. Alright, as I've said before, I don't really do the rankings on here. I don't feel that the rankings mean jack squat when you only have teams from your Power 5 conferences that can make your playoffs. So you could have a non-Power 5 team ranked 5th, didn't matter. So each week I've kind of got down each of the Power 5 conferences who I think can and will make the playoffs. So we're going to continue that this week. So first one I'm going to, out of the independent Notre Dame, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, they are currently 4-0. They, I feel, have to either be more likely undefeated or maybe a good loss if that's possible. Maybe to Stanford this week. That might be a good enough loss, but I think that would be the only team that they could lose to that anybody would still consider them for the national championship or national into the playoffs. So Notre Dame 4-0, I think they have to win out. The ACC, we have 4 teams currently undefeated. We have Clemson and Syracuse, both 4-0. They play this week. So one of those 2 teams will have a loss. Duke is also 4-0, and NC State is 3-0. Well, Clemson plays Duke November 17th, and NC State October 20th. So that's going to blow one of those, if not all of those undefeated teams right there. Big Ten, we have two teams that are undefeated, and they play each other this week. Ohio State and Penn State, both teams are 4-0. I feel the winner of this game more than likely will win the Big Ten East. Out of the West, we have Wisconsin 3-1. We do have Iowa that's undefeated right now, but they haven't played a conference game yet. So we'll see how their 3-0 stacks up when they start in the conference play. Big 12, we have 2 teams undefeated, Oklahoma and West Virginia. The Sooners are 4-0, the Mountaineers are 3-0. They meet November 23rd. And the reason I talk about these teams that are 0 losses, 1 losses, because typically if we watched what the committee does, if you win your conference with 2 losses, more than likely you don't make the playoffs. If you are a 1-loss team and you lose in the championship game, you have made the playoffs and you have not. Wisconsin, 1 loss last year to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, did not make playoffs. Georgia, 1 loss last year in the championship game, made the playoffs. But 2-loss Penn State Pac-10 champion a couple years back did not. I think last year Wisconsin won the Big Ten, I believe, if I remember right, and they missed the playoffs, but Ohio State made it. So yeah, I mean, the committee's all over the place sometimes. Pac-12, the North, they have Stanford and California, both teams are 4-0. They're going to play each other this year. In the South, Pac-12, we Colorado's 3-0, Utah's 2-1. They play each other. SEC, we have Georgia 4-0, Kentucky 4-0. Out of the East, they play November 3rd. Right now, out of the West, we have Alabama and LSU both with 4-0. They play on November 3rd. And you have Auburn and Florida both hanging in there with 1 loss in each division. So yeah, I mean, it's still a wide open race among those teams. If you're not one of those teams, more than likely you're not going to be in the playoffs. That's my feeling on it. I can be wrong. Alright, we have 27 games this week. First game, we have the Pittsburgh Panthers 2-2 versus the UFC Knights 3-0. The Knights are throwing an average of 50 points a game in their 3 wins. They are favored by 15.5 with a point spread of 66. I am taking the Knights to win, covering the 15.5, and then over on the 66. Next, we have the Tulane Green Wave 1-3 versus the Memphis Tigers 3-1. Tigers have thrown up 49.5 points in their 4 games this year. Defense only giving up 23, while the Tulane's defense is giving up 46. Memphis is favored by 2 touchdowns. I got them winning it, covering the 2 touches, and over on the 67. Now that big ACC matchup, ACC Atlantic Division matchup. 2 teams, both 4-0, the Syracuse Orange and the Clemson Tigers. Surprisingly enough here, Clemson is favored by 22.5. That's a big number. Syracuse is playing pretty good this year. They're averaging almost 50 points a game, 49.5. The defense is only giving up 20 in their 4 wins. While the Tigers are averaging a snit less at 40.75 points a game, while giving up 15.25. Will this be a defensive matchup? Clemson favored by 22.5 with a point spread of 63.5. I have faith in the Tigers, taking the Tigers to win. I think Syracuse can hang with them. So I have Syracuse covering the 22.5. And I'm taking under on that 63.5. I think there will be some points, but it won't be a blowout like that. So next I have the North Carolina Tar Heels 1-2 versus the 3-1 Miami Hurricanes. Miami's favored by 18.5 against the Tar Heels. I do have them winning. I have them covering the 18.5 and taking under on the 55.5. Next we have the Florida State Seminoles at 2-2 versus the Louisville Cardinals at 2-2. Louisville's averaging 17 points a game on offense. Well, the Seminoles are averaging 20 points a game on offense. Florida State's favored by 6. The over-under is 47 on this game. With the 2 offenses kind of sputtering in the first 4 games, I'm taking under on the 47. Next, we have the Michigan Wolverines 3-1 versus the Northwestern Wildcats 1-2. I mean, the defense in Michigan's giving up 14 points a game. Offense is scoring 48. Michigan's favored by 2 touchdowns. I got Michigan winning. I think Northwestern can hang enough to be under 2 touchdown win. So I got them covering the 14 and taking over on the 48. Next, we have that big, huge Big Ten matchup. The Big Ten East with the Ohio State Buckeyes 4-0 versus the Penn State Nittany Lions 4-0. Both teams scoring over 54 points a game. Defense, the Buckeyes giving up 17. The Nittany Lions giving 19.5. Ohio State is favored by 3.5 on the road. Now, Ohio State is 5-2 in their last 7 games versus Penn State. The last 18 matchups when both teams were ranked, Ohio State has won the matchup 11-7. I just like Penn State in this game. I don't know why. I can't explain why I'm doing it, but I am doing Penn State. I'm giving Penn State to 3.5, but I think Ohio State will cover that. So I think it's going to be a field goal game, maybe 1-2 point game. So I got Penn State winning. I got Ohio State covering the 3.5, and I'm taking under on the 67.5. Next, we have West Virginia Mountaineers 3-0 versus Texas Tech Red Raiders 3-1. West Virginia favored by 3.5. We get them winning, covering, and under on the 77. Next, we have the Baylor Bears at 3-1 versus the Oklahoma Sooners 4-0. Sooners favored by 23.5 here at home. I think that's a pretty big number, but hey, what do I know? I got Oklahoma. I got the Sooners winning. Baylor's covering at 23.5, and they can over on the 68.5. Next, we have the 3-1 Texas Longhorns. Tom Herman's looking pretty good right now. Maybe he's bringing the Longhorns back to where they're a powerhouse. Playing the 2-2 Kansas State Wildcats. Texas favored by 8.5. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 48. Next, we have the Florida Atlantic Owls at 2-2 versus the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders at 1-2. Both these teams' defense have been giving up 40 points a game on defense giving up. So yeah, this could be a very intriguing game here. I got the Owls favored by 4.5. I got them winning, covering. I'm taking over on the 67.5. Neither one of these defenses can really stop people from scoring, so it could be entertaining. With the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs 2-1 versus North Texas Mean Green 4-0. The Mean Green not looking mean this year, 4-0, scoring 48.7 points a game while giving up 15. They are favored by 7.5 at home. I got them winning, covering 7.5. I'm taking over on the 65. Next, we have the Army West Point Black Knights 2-2 versus the undefeated Buffalo Bulls 4-0, scoring 40 points a game, giving up 20. Buffalo favored by 9. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 51.5. Next, with the BYU Cougars at 3-1 versus the Washington Huskies at 3-1. Washington's favored by 17.5 at home. I'm giving Washington the win. I got BYU covering the 17.5 and under on the 44. Next, we have that huge matchup with Notre Dame and Stanford. We get Stanford Cardinal 4-0 going into Notre Dame at 4-0. Both of these teams are in a position where they need a win here. I think Stanford could possibly still make the playoffs with one loss, with a Pac-12 championship. But Notre Dame, I think, has to be undefeated. This would be the only possible game that Notre Dame could lose. They would have to win out, have Stanford win out, or even with one loss, a good loss, and then go to the Pac-12 title game in order for this loss to look good. So I am taking the Notre Dame Fighting Irish here. They are favored by 4.5 at home. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 54. I want to see a playoff with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in it. Next, we have the Massachusetts Minutemen 2-3 versus the Ohio Bobcats 1-2. Ohio favored by 13. I am taking the Bobcats to win, to cover, and I will take under on the 69.5. Next, we have the Northern Illinois Huskies at 1-3 versus the Eastern Michigan Eagles at 2-2. The Huskies are scoring 14 points a game average, while Eastern Michigan's averaging 30. Eastern Michigan favored by 3.5. I got them winning, covering, under on the 46.5. Next, we have the Toledo Rockets 2-1 versus the Fresno State Bulldogs, also 2-1. Fresno State favored by 8 at home, winning, covering, and over on the 59.5. Next, we have the Boise St Broncos at 2-1 versus the Wyoming Cowboys at 2-2. Boise State is favored by 17. Wyoming hung with Missouri Tigers, who were able to hang with Georgia. So I am picking Boise State to win, Wyoming covering the 17, and then over on the 46.5. Next, we have a Big 12 matchup. We have 1 versus 2 in the Pac-12 South. USC Trojans 2-2 versus the Arizona Wildcats 2-2. I think with 2 losses, both of these teams are already out of the top of playoffs. USC is favored by 3. I actually have Arizona winning this from at home. I'm giving them the 3 points. They'll cover and over on the 61. Next, we have the Louisiana Raging Cajun at 1-2 versus the undefeated, the greatest college football team ever, the Alabama Crimson Tide. They are scoring 53 points a game while giving up 12. Wow. Listen to this point differential. 215 to 51. They are favored by 49. Yeah, and Nick Saban doesn't like running up the score. Obviously, the Crimson Tide win. I got the Raging Cajun covering at 49. 49 is a huge fucking number. I mean, that basically means it's going to be 53-0. Is what they're saying with that number. I got the Raging Cajuns covering the 49, taking over on the 65.5. Next, we have the Tennessee Volunteers at 2-2 versus the undefeated Georgia Bulldogs at 4-0. This is the last game of the year matchup. Georgia, Alabama. Both teams will be undefeated. It's going to be for all the marbles. More than likely, it'll also be a SEC championship game. Next, we have Tennessee. Georgia's favored by 31.5. I got them winning, covering the 31.5 and over on the 53.5. It's going to be a massacre in Georgia. Next, we have the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles at 2-1 versus the Auburn Tigers at 3-1. Auburn's favored by another huge number of 28, winning, covering, and over on the 54. Next, we have the Florida Gators 3-1 versus the Mississippi State Bulldogs, also 3-1. Mississippi State is favored by 7.5 at home. I'm picking Florida here. I just have a feeling. I could be wrong. I'm wrong a lot. I'm giving Florida the 7.5, which I think the Bulldogs will cover, and I'm taking over on the 15.5. Next, we have the Carolina Coastal Chattanoogas. I don't know if I can pronounce that word. 3-1 versus the Troy Trojans. 3-1. This is 1 versus 2 in the Sun Belt East. Troy's favored by 2 touchdowns. I get them winning, covering over on the 55.5. Next, we have the South Alabama Jaguars 1-3 versus the Appalachian State Mountaineers 2-1. Appalachian State favored by 26 at home, winning. I get them covering and picking over on the 60. And then last but not least, with the Arkansas State Red Wolves 3-1 versus the Georgia Southern Eagles at 2-1. Arkansas State favored by 3 on the road, winning, covering, and over on the 57. So that's going to wrap up Week 5 of the NCAA college football season. Alright, make sure you stay tuned to Robert Sports Show for Week 4 of the NFL. As always, if you're a pro wrestling fan, check out all the pro wrestling videos. If you're a Progress Wrestling fan, Progress Wrestling Chapter 76 Hello Wembley preview is up. Preview is up for WWE Down Under, Super Show Down Under in Australia coming up. NASCAR previews are up. Week 3 of the first round of the elimination race for the first round of the NASCAR Cup, Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. Always all that on Robert Sports Show. Make sure you check it all out. As always, thanks for watching Robert Sports Show, and don't just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show, your YouTube leader in sports channel content. And the Major League Baseball playoff preview coming soon.